Welcome to In the Spotlight. My guest today is Stephen Grosswald. Hello, Stephen.
Hello, Valerie. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So, Steve is the executive director and the founder of Mission Philadelphia, which is an organization that is working to bring together nonprofits, corporations, government entities to end homelessness and hunger in Philadelphia by July 4th of 2026. So, Steve, I know that this has been an interesting journey for you. You worked in corporate America for quite some time, and during the pandemic, you found yourself in this space. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about your background and how your whole mission got started.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Again, 30 plus years in corporate America, basically always working towards continuous outcome optimization. In the corporate world, that might be profits, it might be revenue, it might be sales increases, increased improved supply chain, the many different metrics that in the corporate world that are used to measure success. And during the pandemic, my consulting company that I've been running for the last 7 years kind of came to a screeching halt. So I was looking for something to do, and I saw a TV and a news article concerning Tom Fry, who was out volunteering for St. Miriam's Church in Flourtown, Pennsylvania, delivering food. And I decided to join Tom, and 5 nights a week, usually from 8 at night to 1 in the morning, we would deliver 200 blessing bags. A blessing bag is a gallon Ziploc bag with a bottle of water, a protein, crackers, some other food products, and a clean pair of socks, which for homeless people I learned is one of the most important things to have, which kind of makes sense when you think about it. And in that process, what I noticed in working with St. Miriam and other not-for-profits, that the same focus on effectiveness that exists in most corporations today didn't exist. And the larger issue is most corporations have a 5-year plan. Yet there, to my knowledge, is no plan in Philadelphia to end homelessness. There's money spent, $50 million plus a year with the Office of Homeless Services, mostly directed towards sheltered homeless people. There's additional funds spent by other departments throughout the city to help the homeless, and they do good work. There are dozens of not-for-profits that are the benefactors of that $49 million worth of spending. However, no one had the vision or articulated they want to end homelessness. And I thought that was a major opportunity.
And to your point, I mean, yes, it is a tremendous issue in our city. And I think during the pandemic, it became a lot more relevant because all of a sudden, for people who were driving up and down Benjamin Franklin Parkway, we started to see the homeless camp, which I think was really eye-opening for a lot of people. But more along the lines of what you're doing and what your mission is, you are really trying to foster coordination and collaboration. And I think that that's where the difference lies, because as you said, there are many institutions and organizations that are in one way or another addressing homelessness or hunger. But there is no realm in which all of them are coming together for a cooperative good.
You're right, Valerie, and I think when you look at why homelessness persists, it's not because there's not enough places for shelter. There's actually 40,000 vacant homes in Philadelphia. It's not because there's not enough food. There's plenty of food out there. It's not because there's not enough money between city, state, federal, corporations, foundations, private donors, and so forth. There's plenty of money. And it's not because, to your last point, there are not enough organizations or people who are trying to do good work, because there's plenty of those. Yet it's not coordinated. All right, and I remember being with Tom in the 8th Street Patco SEPTA subway station at 9:30 one night, delivering blessing bags to the 50 plus people who were homeless, who were in camp there. And there happened to be three pastors from two different churches from Meade and Delaware County that were there with a home-cooked meal, which is wonderful they did that. However, their point is, had we come a half hour later and not seen that they were there, these people would have been fed twice, and another 50 people would not have been fed at all.
Well, that's one of the things. I mean, we're specifically now talking about food, but I don't really know, and I don't know how many of our viewers would know, where do you go to get the food? What is the outlet to find out when the food is available? And if it is available, who it's available to? And I know, obviously, like you mentioned, there are organizations that, I mean, this is their main goal. Family Catholic Social Services, Jewish Family and Children's Services, certainly there's many churches. But in terms of knowing about what these programs offer and how you can get involved if you're one of these families that are suffering, from hunger. This is what you're really addressing, right?
Well, there's an old adage, if a tree falls in the forest, but there's no one there here to sound was a sound made. Well, if there's food available, but the people in need don't know where it is or when it is or have the means to get there, then are we really accomplishing what we need to do? So, I mean, to your point, there are many, many great organizations, mostly faith-based, but not entirely, that are there to help people. And let's delineate food insecurity for people who have a home, but for they and their families don't have enough food for 21 meals a week. And there's 300,000 plus people in Philadelphia prior to the pandemic who were food insecure, 300,000 people. Then in addition, we have well over 1,000 people that are homeless and food insecure, whereas the former group would be looking for boxes at food pantries. And again, Jewish Family Services, Catholic Social Services, and others do that. It's a different constituency, or from a corporate term, a different demographic, to have the homeless people who are hungry, who are more looking for that next meal. And one of the things that Tom Fry and I are targeting to do this year is we've set a goal. And our goal is that every unsheltered homeless person gets 2 meals per day. One meal which is fresh or hot, it could be a cold sandwich or a hot meal, and every person gets what we're calling a mission bag, which is similar to a blessing bag, which is shelf-stable, which they can eat at the moment or they can save and so forth. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, Tom and I are not going to be doing that personally, but we've got to do an inventory of who are all the organizations out there that are currently feeding the homeless.
I mean, you essentially have to develop a supply chain.
Yes,
right?
It's what I call a charitable supply chain,
okay.
And one of our building blocks is a charitable supply chain optimization. But to do that, in basic business terms, a gap analysis. First of all, we need to know how many unsheltered homeless people there are. Office of Homeless Services says there's about 950. No one I know in the homeless ecosystem believes that's even remotely the case. There was an article last night that Al Lebrano did in the Philadelphia Inquirer that said there are thousands of homeless students in the Philadelphia School District, yet they're not counted because HUD counts via point-in-time count, and they don't fit that quite bucket. But it doesn't matter what HUD says there is. It's a matter of the individual people who don't have a meal. That's what it matters. So what we hope to embark upon in this year, July 4th is our beginning of our second year, is to our mission is to work with all the not-for-profits out there and effectuate a plan where every homeless person is given a hot or fresh meal as well as a shelf-stable meal.
So there will be different alternatives. You can perhaps go to a food pantry, or you can have foods that are delivered to you at a specific designated location if you're homeless. And I don't even know if we're talking involving, the government and SNAP and all of those things in terms of how others get their food if they are, low income or living in poverty.
Well, you kind of outlined the challenge. And one of the things that we've established is our 5 pillars of ending hunger and homelessness. and hunger is the first pillar. I'll skip housing, come back to that in a second. But the next pillar is enrollment. One of the things that I think is a grave injustice is that there are hundreds of homeless people in Philadelphia and elsewhere in the state and elsewhere in the country that are eligible for SNAP, which ranges from $192 or more with COVID of food. Yet they're not signed up. They're not eligible. Why? Well, one of the things you need to do is you need to sign up, but a second thing you need to do is have an address to get a card. Now, prior to the pandemic, Jewish Family Service, Catholic Social Services, and other organizations did sign up people, and some of them would allow the cards to be mailed to them. But we need to know the size of our population. We need to know the percentage of people that are not on SNAP. We need to get them on SNAP and get them on Medicaid. You know, people who do not have health insurance, who are homeless, often they either go to the hospital for something which is not urgent and they flood the ER, which creates problems for everybody, very costly, or worse, they don't go at all and they wait till the situation gets so acute that their quality of life is degraded and the cost to society is actually much higher. No one wins when anyone waits to go to get medical treatment. So SNAP and Medicaid is a safety net that the federal government and state government administered through the city pay for. Yet there are people out there who don't get it. So enrollment,
or don't know how to get it,
don't
or
know,
just
don't know how to
access.
get it.
So education is key.
Right.
We are speaking with Steve Grosswald. He is working to end hunger and homelessness in Philadelphia with Mission Philadelphia. We're going to take a short break right now, and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to In the Spotlight. We are speaking today with Steven Grosswald. He is the executive director and founder of Mission Philadelphia. He is working to stop homelessness and hunger by 2026, actually July 4th of 2026. And before we went into the commercial, I think right now we're looking at a slide about what your vision is and what your mission is. With Mission Philadelphia. And before we went into the commercial break, you were talking about there's 5 different pillars to your platform, so maybe you can continue to elaborate on what they are.
Okay, well, the first pillar we talked about hunger. Our goal is to see that every unsheltered person gets 2 meals a day. The next is housing. There are 40,000 vacant houses in Philadelphia. The city, PHA, the government, and so forth spends a lot of money on housing, $49 million to house people in temporary shelters, but none of that's going to change anything. So one of the things that we're putting together is what we call near $0 sweat equity shared housing. What does that mean? We get a home from the city, PHA, the government, or banks, and they give homes away for $0. And what can we do with that? Well, we're looking to take 4 people, either from the street or more likely from an emergency shelter, and who have skills. Matter of fact, we've identified someone who is a carpenter, or someone who has the aptitude to learn how to solder a pipe, And we work with these people, these currently homeless people, via sweat equity. We marry them, so to speak, with what we call mission mentors, which are tradespeople, high-level tradespeople, Tom Fry, who's a master plumber, electricians, and so forth. So what is our goal? Our goal is to get a home for free. We get free labor in terms of the homeless people doing the sweat equity as well as the craftsmen. We get donations from organizations like Home Depot and Lowe's and Ferguson and Weinstein and Billows and Colonial, as well as Whirlpool, which donates appliances to Habitat for Humanity. So our goal is to take a blighted house and 4 homeless people and transform that into a code-compliant home with dignity for 4 people.
I mean, it's definitely an admirable goal, and it's definitely a challenging program looking to find 4 people who have those skills,
We
and
can
then
find the people.
put them together with people who are already skilled craftsmen in Philadelphia willing to come together on this joint effort. And 4 houses, it's great, it's a start, but there's a long way to go. And I think one of the things that we discussed prior to talking today was how much money the city is spending on inmates.
Yeah, okay.
People that are, and jail, and where the money that the city actually does have could be better allocated towards problems like this.
Yeah, as we discussed, Val, there are between 7,000 and 8,000 inmates at any one time in the Philadelphia prisons, and the budget for the Department of Corrections in Philadelphia is $250 million. Yet we have roughly the same number of homeless people in the city, sheltered and unsheltered, and we spend less than a third. And it's kind of tough to identify where that money is. I mean, how much money do our police spend relative to the homeless? How much money does the EMT spend for the homeless? So societally, there's a imbalance as to what our focus should be. Now, that's not going to change anytime soon, and I don't know that we're going to have any impact on that per se. But it's a matter of prioritization. And, the city as a whole needs to make a decision that housing is a human right, food is a human right, and we have to end it. And we have to look at the resources we have. And what we're proposing is really not require any incremental money from government. It's a matter of looking at where we're spending the money and reallocating it with a specific goal of ending hunger and homelessness.
And it's an ambitious goal because you're saying that homelessness and hunger can be eradicated in the next 5 years based on the plan that you're laying out if everyone is on the same page. The other thing that I think is really critical about the way that all of this rolls out is education and how people become knowledgeable, not only people that are business people, craftsmen, people in the city that are helping as volunteer organizations, but the people who are in fact homeless and hungry. And you have created something, or you're working on a new development that is really a sign of our times, I should say. So why don't you share a little bit about the technology behind what you're doing?
Well, there's a famous picture from 1986 from Inquirer photojournalist Tom Graylish, Pulitzer Prize-winning picture about homelessness, and it's a homeless man eating with a sign that says cab stand. Well, over time, in the last 35 years, technology has eliminated a need for a cab stand sign with Uber and Lyft and so forth. Yet we haven't used technology to the degree that we can to maximize the collaboration of all the different stakeholders in the city. And that includes increasing volunteerism. One of the things that I know from talking to many, many people is most people want to help. the easier you make it for them to help, the more likely they're going to do that. If you put challenges and roadblocks in the way, it's probably not going to happen. And that comes to whether volunteering time, whether it's donating clothing, or things of that nature. And I have to tell you, I've had discussions with lawyers, accountants, plumbers, electricians, people throughout the area who are willing to help and volunteer, not at the level of literally handing out food, although they're willing to do that also, but at a higher level in order to create this collaborative ecosystem amongst all the stakeholders to achieve the goal, the mission 5 years.
So, but one of the direct points that I would really like you to address is the app
Right.
that you are working to develop and really bring a lot of these different arms together under one resource that people will be able to access.
Right, one of our building blocks,
Right.
which you can see at our website at missionphiladelphia.org. And by the way, there's a interesting little, today is Rocky Balboa's, Sylvester Stallone's birthday, and on the website is a animated Rocky movie which talks about the different building blocks. Again, missionphiladelphia.org. But one of our building blocks is what we call CHAS, Charity as a Service, and that's a play on words, so to speak, for SaaS, which is the prevailing term for software as a service. And what we are speccing out now is a internet, iPhone, iPad, Android application, which could be used by the couple at home that wants to donate clothing, the man or woman who wants to volunteer. I mean, for example, if to volunteer you want to cook at a soup kitchen, but your only time available is 1 to 3 o'clock on Sunday, for you to find those opportunities right now, where can I cook to help the homeless from 1 to 3 on Sunday, short of making 50 phone calls, of which many may not get returned, it's almost impossible to identify where that is. So our goal with the app is to facilitate the process for those that want to help. Also, most people believe, well, homeless people don't have cell phones. Well, I recently volunteered at the Sunday Breakfast Mission, a wonderful organization. About 150 gentlemen were having a meal with a very dignified meal, a lot of respect that's shown to them by the Sunday Breakfast Mission. And well over half of them had cell phones that they were charging.
But there is a way actually that they do get the cell phones if they are involved
Right.
in our city system, right? Which I don't think a lot of people know about. And this is one of the reasons that I say education is really the key to the success of all of that, not just for those who are homeless, but I know for myself, I'm an event planner. A lot of people ask me after a large event, what do I do with the food that's left over, or where
Right.
can I take it? And it's a sense of urgency because they don't want the food to spoil,
Right.
and they want to be able to give it to somebody who can use it. And having this app would be very convenient to just say, oh, this is the facility that's open now, and then you could take it to, or a kitchen, whatever it might be.
Right, one of the greatest sources of food, see, one of the misconceptions that I had was that restaurants are a great source of food. And they are to some degree, but someone shared with me, a well-run restaurant has no leftovers. They plan their food, it goes in the soup the next day, et cetera, et cetera. However, banquet hall managers for weddings, bar mitzvahs, and so forth, they have to make extra food. The problem is at 1:30 in the morning, Sunday morning, when you've got 27 meals left over, what do you do with it? So with the app, in an Uber-like situation, we'll be able to connect the banquet hall manager with a driver who can be notified at 1 in the morning, yes, there is food available, and here's how many meals are available, and they have a predetermined understanding as to where they can deliver that food. Because right now, that food often goes in the trash. And Feeding America said that in 2019, they recouped 1.9 billion pounds of food. That's the good news. The bad news, there's a total of at least 8.7 billion pounds. One example of something that we did back on March 2nd, had the honor of delivering 10 tons, 20,665 pounds of Beyond Meat, high protein, plant-based meat that was destined for a landfill to our platinum partner, the SHARE program in Hunting Park. George and his staff distributed that amongst their 500 community partners, and that led to 50 to 60,000 meals for the hungry people of Philadelphia. And again, if you make it difficult for people to help, they probably won't. If you facilitate it, they often will. And technology, I mean, cell phone technology and app technology is so simple. It's a matter, and there are a lot of great organizations, Share Express. They have an app which does a very specific slice of it. There's organizations that do different slices of it. Our goal is to aggregate the whole ecosystem for stakeholders if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate something, and so forth, in a single app that anyone can download for free.
Well, it's a very ambitious goal, and I think that the whole concept, the idea is tremendous, and I do hope that you gain a lot of support in moving forward. 5-year plan, I think that's really a great goal also. I want to close today with giving people information about where they can go if they want to donate clothing, food, make a contribution, get involved with Mission Philadelphia. Where can they go?
Well, if we had the app, I would send you there, and that would effectively bring in all the stakeholders. We don't have that right now. So you can certainly Google on your own to find these organizations, or please feel free to send an email at info@missionphiladelphia.org, or go on our website and click on donate, which could be clothing, it could be food, it could be money, or volunteer. And we'll do our best in a manual sense to get people connected, to give them a feeling of enhanced ability to help people. And I mean, it's really a win-win for everybody when people get involved and try to help someone else.
100%. And I would say if you have an interest in helping in any of these areas, stay tuned, because this app is in development, and we will see the way the entire system is going to change because of it. So I want to thank you, Steve, for joining me today. Thank you to all my viewers for watching, and make sure you tune in next time. We'll see you in the spotlight.